You know, history is packed with famous battles, but sometimes the most important lessons aren't learned during the fight itself. They're learned in the tense, quiet moments that come after a huge victory.
Think about that for a second. After all the struggle, after you finally succeeded, a new, even tougher conflict can bubble up from right inside your own ranks. And that is exactly what happened in the wake of the legendary Battle of Badr.
So how could a moment of incredible triumph turn so sour, so fast? Well, it all came down to one thing: the spoils of war. Let's just paint a picture. The sun is setting over the desert, the battle's over, it's won. But as evening draws in and everyone gathers, the mood isn't what you'd expect. It's not just pure celebration. No, there's a disagreement brewing, and it's serious enough to tear the whole community apart.
So the problem started because the Muslims had naturally split into three groups, and each one had a vital job to do. You had one group that chased down the enemy as they ran. You had another that stayed back to collect all the valuable spoils left in the enemy camp. And then you had a third, absolutely crucial group that formed a guard around the Prophet, peace be upon him. The issue? Each group was convinced that their job was the most important. And you can just hear the arguments, right? The collectors are saying, hey, we gathered all this, so it's ours. Then the pursuers fire back, hold on, if we hadn't chased the enemy away, there'd be nothing for you to collect. And then the guards step in saying, we were protecting the messenger of Allah. What could possibly be more important than that? And you know what? They all had a pretty good point.
That's the question that just hung in the air, creating this really dangerous rift. This was a test, but it wasn't about fighting skills anymore. It was about character. It was about unity. So what do you do when every side has a legitimate claim? Well, the answer didn't come from a human debate or a shouting match. It came from somewhere else entirely. It was a moment of divine intervention that was about to change everyone's perspective.
A verse was revealed, and it addressed the problem head-on. But notice what it does. It doesn't pick a winner. It doesn't say the pursuers are right or the collectors get it. Instead, it just lifts the whole conversation to a higher level. It says, hey, those spoils, they don't belong to any of you. They belong to Allah and His messenger. Just like that, the entire argument was diffused. The ownership was taken completely out of their hands. Suddenly, the only person with the authority to distribute the spoils was the Prophet, peace be upon him. It was an absolutely genius way to end the dispute. But this was so much more than just a ruling on who gets what. It was a really gentle but powerful lesson in what truly matters. In fact, the verses that came right after this didn't talk about battle tactics or bravery at all. Instead, they started describing the qualities of a true believer, shifting the focus from what's in your hands to what's in your heart.
So this divine correction wasn't just about stopping a fight. It was about building an entirely new understanding of what real success and real worthiness actually look like. The whole message was a pivot from the temporary to the eternal. See, the companions were laser-focused on the external reward, the spoils. But this correction redirected their attention inward, towards the qualities of the heart that are truly valuable in the sight of God. These right here, these became the new metrics of success. It's not about how much stuff you can collect. It's about how deeply you connect with your Lord. It's a heart that feels a sense of awe when God is mentioned. It's faith that actually grows when you hear revelation. It's unwavering trust, sincere prayer, and generosity. That became the new gold standard.
Okay, so that's the principle. But what did this look like in the real world? How was it actually applied? Well, the answer shows this beautiful, perfect balance between justice and deep compassion.
Now that he had the sole authority, the Prophet, peace be upon him, began to distribute the wealth. But the way he did it, well, that showed everyone that this whole lesson about your inner state wasn't just some abstract idea. It was a practical blueprint for building a truly fair and merciful community.
And this is the core principle he established. The Prophet recognized that your value didn't just come from swinging a sword. It came from faithfully doing the job you were given. Your obedience and your intention were just as weighty as your actions on the battlefield.
I mean, just look at these incredible examples. Uthman was specifically told to stay home and care for his sick wife, who was the Prophet's own daughter. He didn't fight, but he received a full share of the spoils. Abu Umama was told to look after his sick mother, and he was honored for his obedience. Abu Lubaba was put in charge of Al-Madinah while the Prophet was away. He was also rewarded. Their duties were different, but their reward, it was equal.
You see what this does? It teaches us that a community is at its strongest when every single role is valued, when caring for a sick parent is seen as just as vital as confronting the enemy on the battlefield. It completely replaces competition with compassion. It fosters unity.
And that brings us to the ultimate takeaway from this whole event.
The victory at Badr was without a doubt historic. But the internal victory, the one that involved making peace, purifying hearts, and uniting the community, that was even more important than the external one.
And so, we're left with this powerful question. After seeing how dangerously close the companions came to division and how they were guided back to solidarity, it really forces us all to think. In our own lives, our families, our workplaces, what prize, what worldly gain could possibly be worth sacrificing the bonds that hold us all together?